The Judgment Hall of the Galactic Council was massive beyond human comprehension. 3 square miles of smooth, polished stone stretched in every direction, and the ceiling disappeared into artificial clouds that swirled slowly overhead. Ambassador Jessica Hayes stood on the observation deck, her fingers pressed against the cold metal railing as she watched the scene unfolding far below. Her stomach twisted into knots as the guards dragged a young woman across the floor toward the center of the chamber. Lily Carter was only 19 years old. She looked even younger under the harsh alien lights, her brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing the standard blue jumpsuit issued to human researchers. Jessica had met her just 3 months ago when Lily arrived at the research station, bright-eyed and excited about her first real assignment. The girl was studying alien plant life for her college dissertation. Nothing more dangerous than collecting flower samples and running basic analysis tests. Now she stood accused of bioterrorism. The Vraxian Empire claimed that Lily had deliberately released a deadly pathogen on one of their colony worlds. Thousands of their people had died from a mysterious plague, and they needed someone to blame. The fact that Lily had been on that world 2 weeks before the outbreak was enough evidence for them. Jessica knew it was impossible. The girl barely knew how to work the scanning equipment, let alone engineer a biological weapon. But the Vraxians wanted blood, and the Galactic Council was ready to give it to them. The lead prosecutor moved forward, a towering creature that looked like a giant praying mantis covered in dark purple armor. Its multiple eyes fixed on Lily as its mandibles clicked together, making a sound like bones breaking. The translator implants converted its speech into dozens of languages simultaneously, filling the chamber with accusations and demands for justice. Lily tried to speak, tried to defend herself, but her voice was so small in that enormous space. Jessica could see the girl's hands shaking even from this distance. The council arbiter floated at the head of the chamber, a bizarre alien entity that was part jellyfish, part machine, with tentacles that glowed with crystalline light. It had presided over trials for thousands of years, witnessed the judgment of countless species, and had long ago lost any sense of mercy or doubt. The verdict came without any real deliberation. Guilty. The word echoed through the chamber in 100 different alien tongues. Jessica's hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. She opened her mouth to shout an objection, to demand a proper trial, to call for Earth's legal representation. But her voice was swallowed by the vastness of the hall, lost among the chittering and buzzing of the alien council members who had already moved on to discussing the punishment. Jessica's eyes found the black bracelet on Lily's wrist. Every human wore one. It looked like a simple piece of jewelry, just a slim band of dark metal with a small blue light that pulsed in time with the wearer's heartbeat. Most aliens thought it was decorative or maybe religious. They had no idea what it really was. That bracelet was connected directly to Earth's defense network through quantum links that functioned across any distance instantly. It monitored vital signs, location, and could transmit audio and visual data if activated by extreme stress or danger. Right now, Lily's bracelet was transmitting everything. Across the chamber, Lily's eyes searched the observation deck until they found Jessica. Even from far away, Jessica could see the fear in the girl's face, but also something else. Acceptance maybe. Or just exhaustion. Lily's lips moved, forming 3 words that Jessica could read even without sound. Tell my mom. Then the Vraxian Inquisitor stepped forward. It carried devices that gleamed like surgical instruments made of ice and starlight. The torture field activated with a low humming sound that made Jessica's teeth ache. Lily's scream cut through the air, raw and terrible. The aliens in the council believed that humans could endure the same levels of pain as their own species. They had done their calculations based on human military records and stress tests. They thought a few minutes of interrogation would break the girl and force a confession. They were catastrophically wrong about human physiology. 14 minutes passed like 14 hours. Jessica watched, helpless and horrified, as Lily's body convulsed under the torture field. The girl's screams eventually faded to whimpers, then to silence. The light on her bracelet pulsed faster, then suddenly stopped. Lily Carter collapsed on the cold stone floor, her heart giving out from the strain. The Vraxian Inquisitor stepped back, its mandibles clicking in what might have been satisfaction or confusion. Lily was dead. 27 light-years away on Earth, in a secured bunker deep beneath the Colorado mountains, every screen in the military command center suddenly flashed red. Alarms began wailing. The data from Lily's bracelet had just transmitted its final reading: deceased. Every second of her torture had been recorded and sent home. Every moment of agony had been measured and documented. The 30-minute countdown started automatically. Earth's response protocol was now active, and nothing in the galaxy could stop what was coming next. General Robert Hayes stood perfectly still in Earth's war room, his eyes locked on the main display screen. The room was carved deep inside a mountain in Colorado, protected by 3 miles of solid rock and enough security systems to withstand a nuclear strike. Right now, none of that mattered. What mattered was the data streaming across the screen in front of him, transmitted from 27 light-years away through quantum links that defied every law of physics humanity had once believed was absolute. The biometric readings showed everything. Heart rate, blood pressure, neural activity, pain levels. Every measurement was color-coded, and right now the screen was painted in shades of red that made Robert's stomach turn. He watched the numbers spike and fall, tracking every second of agony that Lily Carter endured. The girl's pain receptors had been firing at maximum capacity for 12 minutes now. Her heart rate had been dangerously high for the last 8. Around him, the war room staff sat frozen at their stations. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They all watched the same data, saw the same horrific timeline unfolding in real time. A young woman was being tortured to death, and they could do nothing but watch and wait. Then the line went flat. The heart rate monitor showed 0. Neural activity ceased. Body temperature began dropping. The timestamp locked in place, recording the exact moment that Lily Carter's heart gave out and stopped beating. The silence in the war room lasted exactly 3 seconds. Robert's jaw clenched so hard his teeth hurt. His hands pressed against the console in front of him, knuckles turning white from the pressure. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried clearly through the room. Confirm identity and full status report. The artificial intelligence system responded immediately, its voice calm and professional in a way that felt obscene given the circumstances. Identity confirmed, Lily Marie Carter, age 19, enrolled in University of Mars Biology program. Status, deceased. Cause of death, cardiac arrest induced by torture. Location, Galactic Council Primary Judgment Chamber. Time of death, 14 minutes 32 seconds ago. Protocol 13A has been automatically activated. Current countdown, 28 minutes, 15 seconds remaining. Protocol 13A. The retribution clock. Every human in the military knew what it meant, but nobody had ever believed it would actually be triggered. It was the ultimate insurance policy, created 200 years ago when humanity first made contact with alien civilizations and realized just how dangerous the galaxy could be. The protocol was simple. If any human citizen was murdered or tortured to death by a foreign power, Earth would have 30 minutes to verify the circumstances and prepare a response. After 30 minutes, that response would be automatic and overwhelming. The countdown was designed to give Earth time to investigate, to ensure there was no mistake, no miscommunication. 30 minutes to confirm that a genuine atrocity had occurred. After that, the decision was already made. Across human space, spread across dozens of star systems and hundreds of stations, ships, and colonies, the machine of war began to move. Every human vessel received the same encrypted transmission simultaneously. Military ships that had been on routine patrol suddenly changed course. Civilian transport ships docked at alien stations began emergency departure procedures. Merchant vessels trading at distant ports pulled away from loading docks, their captains offering no explanations to confused alien port authorities. Military fleets that had been hiding in deep space for 2 centuries, ships that the rest of the galaxy didn't even know existed, began powering up weapon systems. These weren't exploration vessels or transport ships. These were warships, built in secret shipyards in the outer reaches of the solar system, designed with one purpose: to make absolutely certain that humanity would never again be helpless in the face of extinction. Admiral Catherine Webb commanded the first response fleet from the bridge of the battleship Vengeance. She was 52 years old, had served in Earth's Navy for 30 years, and had spent the last decade commanding a fleet that she hoped would never be needed. Her orders had been pre-programmed years ago, locked behind quantum encryption that could only be broken by Protocol 13A activation. Now those orders scrolled across her screen, and her crew moved with practiced efficiency to carry them out. Back at the Galactic Council, confusion was spreading like wildfire. The Council's communication officers tried to contact Earth's embassy. The channel opened but only static came through. They tried contacting the human delegation at the border territories. Nothing. They attempted to reach human trading posts, human diplomatic vessels, human research stations. Every single channel returned the same result: silence. In the judgment chamber, Ambassador Jessica Hayes stood perfectly still on the observation deck, watching as medical drones approached Lily's body on the floor far below. She felt numb, disconnected from reality. This couldn't be happening. They couldn't have just murdered a 19-year-old girl for a crime she didn't commit. But they had. Jessica walked calmly down the stairs from the observation deck, her footsteps echoing through the massive chamber. Alien Council members watched her with their various eyes and sensors, confusion evident in their body language. Jessica ignored them all. She walked straight to where Lily lay on the cold stone floor, knelt beside the girl's body and gently closed her eyes. Then she activated her own neural link and spoke clearly into it, knowing that every word would be recorded and transmitted back to Earth. This is Ambassador Jessica Hayes, providing eyewitness confirmation. Lily Carter was innocent. She was a child. She was tortured to death without trial, without evidence, without mercy. Authorization code Hayes Omega 7. 27 light-years away, General Robert Hayes added his daughter's testimony to the official file. The countdown continued, the numbers falling steadily toward 0. 19 minutes remained. Ambassador Kelvin Ross of the Turellian species sat in his assigned chamber seat, his forearms trembling as he watched the chaos unfolding around him. While the other council members chatted casually about the next case on their agenda, treating the death of the human girl as nothing more than an unfortunate administrative error, Kelvin felt ice-cold dread spreading through his entire body. He was the only one who understood what was coming. The Turellian people had made humanity their special area of study from the moment humans first made contact with the galactic community 40 years ago. While other species looked at humans and saw weakness, fragility, and amusing emotional displays, the Turellians had taken a different approach. They studied human history with obsessive detail. They read every book, watched every documentary, analyzed every war and conflict that humanity had recorded. What they found terrified them. Humans were not weak. They were survivors. A species that had climbed from caves to spacecraft in just 10,000 years. A species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and had come within minutes of destroying their own planet with nuclear weapons multiple times. They had fought wars over invisible lines on maps, over religious concepts, over resources and pride and revenge. They had burned entire cities to ash, killed millions of their own kind, and somehow still managed to unite and reach for the stars. And now the Galactic Council had just tortured one of their children to death. Kelvin's translator implant crackled as he switched it to maximum volume. He stood up on his four legs, his reptilian face flushed with urgency. Evacuate. His voice boomed through the chamber, startling several nearby council members. Evacuate this planet immediately. You have 12 minutes, maybe less. The council arbiter, that floating mass of tentacles and crystalline technology, turned its attention toward Kelvin with what might have been amusement. Its voice resonated through the chamber, translated into every language simultaneously. Ambassador Ross, please calm yourself. One human died during lawful questioning. It was unfortunate, but these things happen. We will issue a formal apology to Earth and provide appropriate compensation. You tortured a child to death. Kelvin's translator was struggling to keep up with his rapid, hissing speech. His claws scraped against the stone floor as he moved toward the arbiter. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you understand what humans do when their children are harmed? A ripple of what might have been laughter moved through the assembled aliens. The Vraxian prosecutor clicked its mandibles in dismissal. One of the council's senior members, a blob-like creature from the methane worlds, spoke up with obvious condescension. Ambassador Ross, humans are a minor species. They have 3 small colony worlds and a handful of exploration vessels. What exactly do you think they can do to the Galactic Council? Kelvin's hands shook as he pulled up holographic files from his personal database, projecting them into the air above the council floor. Images flickered to life showing scenes from Earth's history. Cities reduced to rubble. Mushroom clouds rising above islands. Trenches filled with bodies. Entire populations wiped out by gas and flame. I've studied their wars, Kelvin said, his voice dropping to something barely above a whisper, which somehow made it more frightening. They fought a war that killed 70 million of their own people over territory and ideology. They invented weapons that could crack their planet open like an egg. They dropped atomic bombs on cities full of civilians and watched as shadows were burned into walls. They did all of this to each other, to their own species, over concepts and borders. He pulled up another file, this one showing an official document filed with the Galactic Council. 40 years ago, when humans first joined the galactic community, they filed something called Protocol 13A. Most of you ignored it. I didn't. It's called the Retribution Clock. The hologram displayed the document in dozens of languages. Kelvin highlighted the key sections with his claw. Activation conditions. Death of any human citizen by foreign torture, murder, or genocide. Response time, 30 minutes from moment of death. Retaliation level, proportional and guaranteed. What does proportional mean? Someone asked from the gallery. Kelvin's eyes, all 6 of them, fixed on the questioner. It means they calculated an appropriate response to every possible scenario. It means they've been planning for this exact situation for 40 years. It means that somewhere, right now, human military commanders are following orders that were written decades ago, just waiting for someone to be stupid enough to harm one of their own. The Arbiter's tentacles waved dismissively. Even if this protocol exists, humans lack the military capability to threaten the Council. Our intelligence shows they have fewer than 200 ships total, mostly science vessels. It's been 26 minutes since the girl died, Kelvin interrupted, his voice barely audible now. May the void have mercy on us all, because humanity won't. The chamber fell silent. For a moment nothing happened. Then the emergency sensors began screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the building. Every screen in the chamber suddenly displayed the same image. Space above the planet filled with quantum space signatures. 4 minutes later the first human warship materialized. Then another. Then 10. Then 100. Then more, until the orbital space above the Council homeworld was filled with vessels that shouldn't exist. Not exploration ships or research vessels. These were warships, massive and bristling with weapons systems that the Council sensors couldn't even properly identify. Simultaneously, at every major Galactic Council military installation within 100 light-years, the same thing was happening. Human fleets were appearing out of quantum space, emerging from hiding places in deep space where they'd waited in silence for 2 centuries. Ships built in secret, armed with weapons developed in hidden laboratories, crewed by soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war they hoped would never come. The galaxy had thought humans were weak. They were about to learn the difference between weakness and restraint, between inability and choice. Earth had been building an arsenal in the shadows, just waiting for someone to give them a reason to use it. That reason was now a 19-year-old girl named Lily Carter, and her death had started a countdown that had just reached 0. Admiral Catherine Morgan's face suddenly appeared on every screen across Council space. Not just in the Judgment Chamber but everywhere. On space stations orbiting distant planets. On ships traveling through hyperspace. On personal communication devices held by billions of alien citizens. Every single display screen, from the largest military monitors to the smallest handheld tablets, showed the same image. A human woman in a dark blue military uniform, standing on the bridge of a warship that radiated barely contained power. Her expression was carved from ice. No anger twisted her features. No rage burned in her eyes. Just cold, calculated determination that somehow felt more terrifying than any display of emotion could have been. Behind her, the bridge of the warship Vengeance hummed with energy signatures that the Council sensors couldn't properly identify. Weapons systems that shouldn't exist. Technology that humanity supposedly didn't possess. I am Admiral Catherine Morgan of the Earth Defense Force, she said, her voice steady and clear. 29 minutes ago, you tortured 19-year-old Lily Carter to death in your judgment chamber. She was a biology student. She was collecting plant samples for her college dissertation. She was completely innocent of the crimes you accused her of. You had your 30 minutes to prepare yourselves. In the Council chamber, the Arbiter's crystalline body pulsed with rapid flashes of light, its tentacles writhing in what any human would recognize as panic. It tried to open a communication channel, tried to respond. We can negotiate this misunderstanding. We can discuss appropriate compensation. We can. Negotiation ended when Lily's heart stopped beating. Another voice cut through, this one transmitted directly from Earth. General Benjamin Hayes spoke from the war room buried deep beneath the Colorado mountains. You will now experience what we call proportional response. Proportional response. The aliens would soon learn that this phrase didn't mean equivalent or equal. It meant carefully calculated. Precisely measured. Humanity had spent 40 years planning exactly what they would do if this moment ever came, running simulations and war games, preparing responses for every possible scenario. What happened next took exactly 6 seconds. Every Vraxian military installation across 12 star systems went dark simultaneously. Not destroyed. Not blown apart in spectacular explosions. Just disabled. Power cores that had run continuously for centuries simply shut down. Weapons systems failed. Shield generators stopped working. Their mighty war fleet, the pride of an empire that had dominated this region of space for 5,000 years, hung dead in the void like children's toys with their batteries removed. The Galactic Council's communication relays, an ancient network built over 40,000 years of civilization, simply stopped functioning. Every quantum communication node that wasn't built by human hands ceased to operate. The massive relay stations that allowed instant communication across the galaxy flickered once and went silent. The Council couldn't talk to their own fleets. They couldn't coordinate their defenses. They couldn't even send a simple message to the station next door. Above the Council homeworld, the orbital defense platforms fell silent. These were ancient weapons, some of them older than human civilization itself. They had defended this planet against invasions, against asteroid strikes, against every threat imaginable for thousands of years. They had never failed. Until now. Every single platform simply powered down, their weapon systems going dark, their targeting sensors going blind. But on the planet below, something interesting happened. The lights didn't go out. They flickered for a moment, dimming as power grids tried to compensate for the sudden loss of the orbital power collectors. But they stayed on. Water continued flowing through pipes. Hospitals kept running. Traffic control systems continued functioning. Life support in the underwater cities maintained pressure and oxygen levels. Humanity had reached into the Council's infrastructure with surgical precision and disabled exactly what they wanted disabled. Military systems went dark. Civilian systems stayed operational. It was like a parent taking away a child's toy while making sure the child still had food and shelter. The message was clear: we can destroy you, but we're choosing not to. Admiral Thomas Wright commanded the second response fleet positioned above the Vraxian homeworld. His orders were specific, written decades ago by strategists who had hoped these orders would never need to be followed. The goal wasn't destruction. It was demonstration. Show them what humanity could do. Make them understand the restraint that was being shown. Fire one warning shot, Thomas commanded from his position on the bridge. Targeting solution is already locked in. Fire when ready. A single projectile launched from the railgun system of the battleship Justice. It was just a solid slug of metal, nothing fancy, nothing exotic. But it was accelerated to 0.3% of light speed, turned into a kinetic weapon with more destructive power than a nuclear bomb. The projectile carved through empty space, leaving a trail of disturbed particles that glowed briefly before fading. Its target was a small moon orbiting the outer edge of the Vraxian system. An airless, lifeless rock that nobody lived on, that nobody used for anything important. The projectile struck the moon dead center. The moon didn't just crack or break apart. It vaporized. One moment there was a small celestial body about 50 miles in diameter that had orbited this gas giant for billions of years. The next moment there was nothing but an expanding cloud of superheated dust and gas, glowing orange and red as it spread outward into space. On the surface of the Vraxian homeworld, in a palace built from crystalline structures that caught and reflected the light of their sun, the Vraxian emperor stood at a massive window and watched that distant moon disappear. He was a creature that had never known fear in his long life. His species were predators, apex hunters on their world, conquerors of a dozen other species. Fear was something they inspired in others. But watching that moon vanish, knowing that humanity had done it with a single shot, understanding that there were hundreds of human warships now positioned above his world, the emperor finally learned what it meant to be afraid. 6 hours after Lily Carter died on that cold stone floor, humanity came back to the Galactic Council chamber. But this time, they didn't come as guests or diplomats asking for permission to speak. They came as the power that had just reminded the galaxy what humans were truly capable of when pushed too far. General Benjamin Hayes walked slowly across the same polished stone where Lily had been tortured. His boots echoed in the massive chamber, each step deliberate and measured. He stopped at the exact spot where the girl had fallen, where her heart had given out under the torture field. He stood there for a long moment, looking down at the floor that had been hastily cleaned, as if removing the evidence could somehow erase what had happened. But Benjamin wasn't alone. Behind him, filling the air above the chamber floor, were 50,000 holographic figures. Every single human currently living in council space stood there as witnesses. Not physically present, but projected through quantum links from wherever they were stationed across the galaxy. Diplomats in their formal suits. Scientists in their lab coats. Traders in their casual work clothes. Military personnel in their uniforms. Families with children. All of them standing together, silent and united. At the very front, directly behind Benjamin, stood a woman in her mid-40s with brown hair streaked with gray. Rebecca Carter's eyes were red and swollen from crying, but her back was straight and her chin was raised. She wore a simple black dress and clutched a photograph of her daughter against her chest. The same daughter who had called her just 2 days ago, excitedly talking about the interesting flowers she'd discovered on the Vraxian colony world. The council chamber, which had been filled with chattering aliens just hours before, was now completely silent. Every council member sat frozen in their seats, watching the humans with a mixture of fear and uncertainty. They had just witnessed what humanity could do. Now they would learn what humanity wanted. Benjamin's voice rang out clear and strong, amplified so that every being in the chamber could hear. These are humanity's terms. They are not negotiable. They are not suggestions. They are the price for what you have done. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the room. First, the Vraxian Inquisitor who tortured Lily Carter and the Council Arbiter who authorized her execution will be taken to Earth. They will stand trial under human law for murder. They will face the same legal system that Lily should have been given. A murmur rippled through the alien council members. The Vraxian Emperor, watching through a holographic link from his homeworld, began to rise as if to protest. Admiral Catherine Morgan's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Her image appeared on every screen, still broadcasting from the Bridge of the Vengeance. We deployed 3% of our military fleet in the last 6 hours. 3%. We disabled your military installations across 100 light-years without firing a single shot at a living being. Not one alien died in our response. She leaned forward slightly, her eyes boring into the camera. We could have turned your worlds into glass. We could have done to your entire species what you did to Lily. We have the weapons. We have the capability. We chose not to use them. That choice is what separates us from you. Remember that before you even think about refusing these terms. The Vraxian Emperor slowly sat back down, his mandibles clicking nervously. Benjamin continued. Second, an independent oversight committee with human representation will be established to review all council judicial proceedings. No species will ever again be judged without proper representation and protection under laws that account for their specific biology and needs. Third, every member species of the Galactic Council will immediately implement species-specific legal protections. What causes pain to one species may kill another. This will be accounted for in all future legal proceedings. Fourth, every council species will send representatives to Earth. You will learn our history. All of it. The wars, the genocides, the atomic bombs, the millions who died in our conflicts. You will understand exactly what kind of species you have awakened, and why we have spent 2 centuries building weapons we hoped never to use. Ambassador Kelvin Ross, the Turellian who had tried to warn the Council, stood up slowly. His voice was heavy with sorrow and resignation. The Galactic Council accepts humanity's terms. All of them. Without modification. The trials began 1 week later on Earth. The proceedings were broadcast across every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions of aliens watched as the Vraxian Inquisitor and the Council Arbiter stood in a human courtroom, facing charges under human law. They were provided with defense attorneys. They were given translators and accommodations for their biology. They received every protection and right that Lily Carter had been denied. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings from Lily's neural link were played in court, though heavily edited to remove the most disturbing content. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty of murder. The sentence was life imprisonment in a human facility, designed to hold them securely but without torture, without cruelty. Just justice. The kind of justice that Lily should have received. On the final day of the trial, Rebecca Carter stood before the assembled court and the billions watching across the galaxy. She stood beside a holographic memorial of her daughter, showing Lily smiling in her university lab coat, holding up a flowering plant she'd been studying. My daughter believed in peace, Rebecca said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. She believed that different species could understand each other, could work together, could build something better than what came before. You took her from me. You took her future, her dreams, her chance to make the galaxy a better place. She paused, looking directly into the camera. But you've given humanity something else. A reminder that peace requires strength. That justice requires vigilance. That we can never, ever become complacent when it comes to protecting our people. Lily's name will be engraved on every human ship, every station, every colony we build from now until the end of time. Not as a symbol of vengeance but as a promise. Never again. Not to humans. Not to anyone. We will make sure that what happened to my daughter never happens to any being in this galaxy again. The Galactic Council was reorganized that year. Humans didn't conquer it or take control of it. They reformed it. The species that had survived world wars, nuclear weapons, and come within minutes of destroying their own planet had learned hard lessons written in the blood of millions. They learned that power without accountability leads to tyranny, that justice delayed is justice denied, that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak, not exploit them. Alien Council tortured a human girl until she died, then 30 minutes later all hell broke loose.